Welcome to HSR Motorsport. Hello and welcome indeed to HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6 Championship. Today you join us for round 3, and the name on the side of that hill should tell you all you need to know about where we are. We are 125 miles west of Sydney, 2,884 feet above sea level. We are, of course, at Bathurst Mount Panorama. The circuit is well known for its high-speed straights and very tight mountain section, as well as one of the most challenging corners in all of motorsport. That's right, it's the Dipper. Now, let's have a very quick track walk because the action is already underway with qualifying, but we'll get to that soon. So, this 3.86 mile long circuit, or 6.2 kilometers if you prefer your metrics, has 23 corners. Overtaking opportunities here include turn 1 down by Hell's Corner, turn 2 at Quarry Bend, and then the tight section kind of prevents anything from happening, and the only real opportunity you have after that is into turn 20, the chase, and then the final corner, Murray's Corner, turn 23. Now, while they are navigating the circuit, every time they get up to the top at Skyline, they have made a 174 meter elevation change. Yeah, it's big. It is basically a mountain, so to speak. So it is a bit of an interesting one. And I'm saying some stuff is going on with my streaming, so it might be slightly interesting, but if you have any hassles, just let me know, because of course I can't actually see too much. I definitely need to upgrade my setup so I can see everything. But yeah, we'll hop straight into the action, because as we speak now, the AMs are just coming to the end of their qualifying session. As you can see, we currently have Mumtus out on circuit at the moment. All the drivers with the red squares on their names on that leaderboard to the left are what we call AMs, or amateurs. You know, AM just is short for amateurs. It's great to use acronyms, always is. And I don't think I have my water bottle, because, and I'll tell you why that's a big issue, we have a 75-minute race today at Bathurst. It's not just the usual 2 30-minute sprints or 60-minute race. It's a little longer, and talking for 75 minutes might be slightly tricky on my voice. But you know, I've talked for much longer, so it shouldn't be too difficult. But it is always nice to have a little bit of always have that water just on standby, ready to go. Now, you might be wondering what's happening during qualifying, though. Why are there only AMs out? Why don't we have everyone out? Well, this just helps with keeping the track clean. If you check that track map up on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see we've got only 5 cars out on track at the moment, and they can then just space themselves out, get the best laps they can, and there we go, you know, their best opportunity at qualifying. If we run 23 cars all simultaneously, as you can imagine, that will probably cause a little bit of argy-bargy between the drivers. They might not necessarily quite enjoy that. And I was actually participating in an endurance race a couple of weeks ago at the Red Bull Ring, and it was a very interesting scenario, having 2 different classes and about 50 cars trying to go around the Red Bull Ring at the same time. Yes, granted, it is a smaller circuit, so you know you're going to run into some issues. But yeah, honestly, some of the stuff you saw there, it was incredibly difficult to get a solid qualifying result. But hey ho, that's what we've prevent with this system. Is with the split qualifying, we have the AMs go out for the first 10 minutes, we have the Pro-AMs go out for the second 10 minutes, and then the final 10 minutes is for the pros. And how we can distinguish them is, of course, by the different coloured blocks behind their car number. So reds are obviously AMs, greys are Pro-AMs, and white is Pro. So if you're talking about the different colours, it's going to be red, then grey, then white. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now you might be wondering, if this is your first time joining us, what's this all about? Well, we are currently running an 8 race championship. We are here at Bathurst for round 3, And last week we were over at Alton Park for a sopping wet race, as is tradition. And it was, to say the least, chaotic. We had drivers constantly going off round turn number 4 into turn number 5. You've got that long left-hander, and every time they'd kind of get that wrong, just touch the grass on the outside, and then they go straight into the barriers down by Howell Oil's corner. And that was just absolute chaos. We had about 5 drivers wipe out that way, and we had drivers also lose it and then wipe out other drivers in the process. So that wasn't fun. But what was fun was to see Vasiliadis in the Pro-Am class absolutely fly through the grid and chase down Josh Redhead. Unfortunately, he had a 25-second penalty. So at the end of the day, he couldn't quite catch up to the back of that faster Mercedes. Now again, if you are experiencing any kind of issue with the streams and stuff like that, you know, it's maybe giving you a bit of buffering. It's telling me it's giving us buffering. But yeah, just let me know, because it is it's a bit of an interesting scenario for me. It's a bit tricky. But anyways, we shall move forward. All the AMs now peel off into the pits, except, of course, for the Ferrari of Leakin Stephen, who I believe is out here for the first time ever. It's his first race of the season, his first race with us here at HSR Motorsport in the GT3 Championship, and he now comes across the line to take a provisional pole position at this point. And Nick Brum is also on the way down, but I'm not sure he's had a good lap. In fact, I think he's had an invalid lap time, so he'll just be pulling off into the pits at the earliest opportunity. Now, of course, we are past that 10-minute mark, so it is time for the Pro-Ams to come out on circuit. And I was going to say one of the first to get out. It isn't. It's one of the first to catch my eye, sorry, is Jacob Curtis, who has been showing some decent potential in past seasons in that Mustang. And he's going for a different approach this time. He's not running the red, black and white livery from last season. He is just running blue and white, and I have to say, I do quite like it. So Jacob Curtis is one name to keep in mind from previous seasons. We have, of course, George Vasiliadis, the Greek driver, who is absolutely taking the grid by storm. He's been performing very well over the past 2 races. As we heard, he had utter dominance over the Pro-Am field last week, but not as much as the man himself, currently P22, even though he hasn't set a lap yet, Josh Redhead, who won last week's race. And yeah, he was pumped up about it. You know, when we were chatting, he was so happy to have to be competing this season and take a race win, second race in. Now, that does remind me, we do need to have a look at the standings. And I do apologise once again, my setup isn't quite advanced enough to allow me to do it easily, so I just need to quickly wait for one of my various devices to load up the standings. So we've got the AMs first. We'll have a quick run through their standings. Up in P1 with 44 points, leading the pack is Johan Huben in the Aston Martin with 3 podiums and a race win under his belt. Aaron Manchip takes P2 with 40 points, also a race win under his belt. Then Nick Brum comes in P3 with 30 points in the Ferrari, with only a single podium finish, but the other 2 finishes were in the top 5, so not too bad there. Then we do, of course, have Nicholas Mamtaz, who took the race win last week, who showed a bit of dominance there as well, or just great consistency. Let's put it that way: consistency in the face of inconsistencies. P5 first. Nico Ziludis. Sorry, it's not a pole position, it's not a provisional pole position, it's a podium. Sorry, apologies, my brain's slightly all over the place. It's been a rough week, alright. P5 for him with 15 points. Tony Rucroft in P6 with 10 points. And the rest of the AM class hasn't actually managed to make it to a race yet. Leakin Stephen, who is in P7 in the championship at the moment, of course, made it this time round. He is currently P1 for his class, and now all the Pro-Am lap times roll in. As you can see, Vasiliadis and Mouchard having a battle for provisional pole, although you couldn't really call it a battle, it's more a wipeout. The gap between them is 1.2 seconds between Mouchard and Vasiliadis. Vasiliadis going for a 202.2 and Chris Mouchard a 203.4, and unfortunately Redhead is 3/10 behind Mouchard as well with a 203.8. Now while we're talking about the Pro-Ams, how about we have a look at their standings as well. Ethan Craddock currently in P1 with 2 race wins in round 1 because it was a 2 30-minute sprint round. But unfortunately last week he didn't quite get that. He didn't quite get the same level of success. He didn't actually turn up. So 51 points for him, with a big gap to George Vasiliadis in P2 at the moment with 3 podium finishes, a podium finish every race so far. 30 points for him. Josh Redhead, after his race win last week, who we are actually following right now, got P3 with 25 points. Stijn van Onneker not far behind with 24 points in the Ferrari. Then Alex Iwanish rounds out your top 5 with with 22 points. So I almost said P22. 22 points. And then the rest of your top 10 is Arturs Kazberis, Emre Ozduru, Nick Neville, or Neville, depending on how you want to pronounce it, Muhammad Khan, and David Janos. And we have seen only 3 drivers from the Pro-Ams not show up to a race. So they've been pretty good with their turn-ups and stuff. Now we will hit the when Pro qualifying hits, we'll move to the Pro standings, but for now we'll just follow the action here on the Pro-Am side of things as they make their way around the circuit. George Vasiliadis on the fastest lap time of the session so far at 202.2. Stijn van Onneker not far behind. I'm just looking at the points here real quick. So George Vasiliadis is on 30 points, Stijn van Onneker is 24. So you could class them as championship rivals. And Stijn van Onneker unfortunately still has a second to make up to the car ahead. But we will see some lap times come in very soon. I think I'm seeing car number 2. No, it's not 2. Nick Neville's making his way around the chase at the moment. So he should be setting a decent lap time here, based on his previous sector times as he comes across the line and secures P8. So, yeah, not too bad, but still could do better, still could get past those AMs. Stijn van Onneker is currently improving on his lap time as he heads into the second sector now. His first sector lap time looked very decent. Sorry, just had a hiccup halfway through. And Jacob Curtis is also on a positive delta at the moment. Curtis down in P6. Stijn van Onneker in P2 at the moment in the Ferrari. And we've seen some rapid drivers in the Ferrari. Daniel Morris was one of them for round 1 over at Imola in Europe. So we could potentially see something from the Ferraris today. Peters in P22, he was our Season 4 champion. Was it Season 4? I can't remember. Was it no, sorry, it was Season 3. It was our Season 3 championship. Sorry, it's a bit confusing when he started broadcasting Season 2, so it's kind of you get the champions mixed up a little bit. But all I know is that the fight for the Pro category championship lead at the moment is heating up, and yeah, it's kind of a bit, it's looking very interesting. But we'll stick to the Pro-Ams for now. Stijn van Onneker coming through now into the final couple sectors. And he has managed to close that gap last lap round. Will he make it up into provisional pole this time, though, as he comes through turn 23, Murray's corner. Final corner, carry that mid-corner speed, keep the momentum up over the curb at the end. And yes, it is pole position for Stijn van Onneker in the 666. How will Vasiliadis respond to that? He's now in the mountain section, just as he comes through Skyline now into the S's. And now the dip at the most feared corner on this whole track. And he isn't quite making as much progress. I think he has invalidated his lap time, so it's not quite going to be an actual lap for him. It will be an actual lap for Emre Ozduru, though, in the McLaren P4 at the moment. is all this driver can do, and they have 1 lap remaining before the pros come onto the track to start their qualifying lap. So it's final push, really. Everyone's going to be doing the best they can. They're just going all out this time, and you can see Ozdoru maybe sending it a little too hard. Unfortunately, there is a limit. You can only push the car so far before you push it over the limit of grip, and you end up losing grip and losing time, which is unfortunately what happened to Ozdoru. He's currently a 1 whole second behind his best lap time, so it's unlikely he will be improving much, but up to P1 there is a 1.2 second gap. But then of course, if he manages to make that 1.2 seconds in the final sector or 2, yeah, he's still not quite going to be going up into the pole position. Now we do have some of the Pro-Ams coming into the pits. Of course, George Vasiliadis and Muchard, currently P2 and P3 in their class, they come into the pits. Josh Redhead is now coming down the long Conrad Straight, 1.9 kilometers long, almost as long in fact as the Chinese Shanghai GP circuit, which has also got a 2 kilometer long back straight. But now through the final corner, Josh Redhead's sectors looked very good as he comes across the line. Well, that puts him, but only bumps him up 1 position up to P5. Ozdoru will come across the line at some point or another. Curtis now making his way through the mountain section, and Stijn van Onneke comes across the line, and he has got that pole position secured pretty much. Ozdoru, yes, into the pits. The only person that is really a threat at this point is going to be Jacob Curtis, we'll call him Josh Curtis, or Nick Novell, who is 2.2 seconds behind though, so I'm not quite sure he'll make it. Sectors did look fairly good through the final couple corners. Now into turn 23. What can the almost called it white. What can this yellow and black Porsche driver do as he now makes his way across the line for his final lap? He managed to secure P3, so not quite pole position, but P3 is still nothing to scoff at, nothing to turn up your nose at. And here's Curtis now through the chase as well. Final attempt at a lap time. Will he be able to improve? Will he be able to make his way out of the final Pro-Am position, get ahead of Stephen at least, so that they can keep their classes in kind of the same groups? If he can, brilliant. If not, then that is a loss, and I think it is a loss for Jacob Curtis. First quali of the season, not quite going as planned. Meanwhile, in the background, you could see a couple of the drivers come across the line to start their qualifying laps, and it's headed by the 2 Italians, Graniero and Cottestella. Cottestella, of course, took a race podium not last time. He took a podium in round 1 at Imola, and Graniero also took a podium at some point during the round. Actually, he took a race win. Sorry, my memory's being slightly jogged here. And of course, last week, after a poor pit stop performance from none other than Kleinen in P19 at the moment, the number 17 McLaren, Graniero just picked up the race lead and held it for the rest of the session. So he took his first race win of the season last week at a sopping wet Alton Park, and he is going to be wet after that little incident with a wall. His pants aren't going to be clean after that. He has hit that wall fairly hard, and straight into the pits he comes. Brendan Kleinen was that driver we were talking about earlier, who had decent pace last week and had a really strong lead right at the start. But once the pit stop started rolling in, once he made that pit stop, something went wrong. I think it was his pit limiter or something he was saying. Something went wrong there, and unfortunately that meant he had a slow pit stop and he came out P2 behind Graniero. Now in the second half of the race, we had this McLaren driver get absolutely pestered by the other Porsche driver of Joshua Hubert, who's currently just behind him as well, coming out of turn 18. And this driver was absolutely pestering him from behind almost half of the race. Like the last half of the race, he was just on his rear end all the way, pushing the car. And yeah, some mistakes were made, but you know, you kind of have to expect that when the track's sopping wet and you're driving a rear-wheel drive missile that's very tricky to steer, or is too easy to steer. Take your pick, whichever you prefer. I guess it's down to your perspective, isn't it? Now, the first couple lap times start rolling in. Tyler Carr in the Ford Mustang sets the fastest lap of the session so far with a 2:0.9, so our first sub 1 lap time as they make their way down the mountain straight, and he is currently following Costello as well. Carr also on his first race of the season with us here at HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6. And yeah, he's not failing to impress. Peter's also in the Ferrari P2, showing us why he was the Season 3 champion, looking for a second championship victory. We only have one two-time champion, and that is, of course, Mikhail Topinka, who was utterly dominant in his first season, which was Season 2 of the GT3 Championship. And we can see Costello pulling off to the inside to allow the Mustang through to get his lap time in. So good heads-up driving from the Ferrari driver. But yeah, almost every season we've had a very dominant championship leader, and the one time when our very dominant championship leader Mikhail Topinka was leading the championship in Season 4, we had some weighted challenges, and he did not, on several occasions, finish P1. But unfortunately, yeah, they just couldn't quite, they couldn't all quite manage to challenge his utter pace every single weekend. So Topinka remains one of our most dominant drivers ever as a two-time champion. And Peters, well, he's looking to claim it. Unfortunately, the season isn't going too well for him. He's currently down in P14 with a P15 finish in the first race, a DNF in the second round of the first race over at Imola, and then he did not compete at Alton Park last week. So unfortunately he's down with 0 points in P14, but he's not too far behind Cairo Samuel and Reese Valentine, both on 2 points. Craig Hewlett is currently on 4 points. And then your top 10 will go from P1 down. We've got Lorenzo Cotalessa, who is at the moment in P number, let me just find him real quick, P22. I'll explain why it took me a while to find it. Cotalessa, who of course managed to take a few podiums, well actually only one podium. It feels like he's been up the front of the grid because he was at the front of the grid in round 1, race 2. You can see all these numbers are kind of messing with my head for a bit. Round 1, race 2, he was fighting for the podium positions for the race lead actually, and then had a tangle with Daniel Morris. Unfortunately, both of them got taken out, and he only managed a top 5 finish that race. But he's on 30 points at the moment. Matt Jordan in P2 with the podium himself, 27 points. Alessandro Panatti in the McLaren with 27 points as well. So very close between Matt Jordan and Panatti there. Now Panatti is also out here tonight. He is currently P10 with a lap time of 2:02.4. And he's not really managed to make any improvements through his sector times so far this time round. Tyler Carr is, though. He's made almost a second through the first and second sectors. Kurt Peters also on an improvement. Brandon Klein, the first lap is usually a bit of a meh lap. Second lap, a little bit of improvement. And the final lap is where you see the most. That's where we're going to see most of the action. And that last lap will start coming through now. Some of these drivers will be making one more attempt at their flying lap. But let's just quickly finish our top 10 for the Pro category. In terms of championships, we've got Daniel Morris in P4 with a race win, 26 points. 2 race wins for Christian Graniero, though, in the BMW. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of gas. I just had dinner. Christian Graniero in P5. 25 points, even though he's got 2 race wins. One of them is unfortunately a drop round at the moment. Tim Miro in P6 with 19 points. Brandon Kleinen in P7 with 18 points. Joshua Hubert in P8 with 12 points. Mario Tsapanidis in the Mercedes with 10 points. And rounding out your top 10, Adam Dutton in the Ford Mustang with 10 points. And many of these drivers did not participate last week, purely due to the fact that it was at Alton Park, which sucks to race at. It's great to drive at, great to do quali laps on, but it sucks to race at just purely down to the narrow nature of the circuit. And then, yeah, the other drivers, they've kind of just ended up here through consistency, really, just making sure they show up every single week. So, Tyler Carr still managing to hold on to his provisional pole position. What can Christian Graniero do? He can't do much more. He takes P3 at the moment with a 201.4. Still not quite the sub 201. Kurt Peters in P2, looking to take his second championship victory, and he is at the moment, I was going to say, I don't think he drives a McLaren. He drives a Ferrari, a red, black and white Ferrari, and he is unfortunately not quite making an improvement yet. One driver who is making an improvement is Alessandro Panatti, that McLaren we were following earlier, who is currently on a 202.4. Last lap round, it was only 400ths off his best time, so you can see consistency is Panatti's bread and butter. Reece Valentine making his way around the final corner now to set his lap time, and he takes P11 away from plenty of the Pro-Ams. So Valentine making it P9 in his class at the moment. Who else can we have a look at? Cottalessa, half a second. Qualifying has ended, so these drivers will be making one final attempt at their lap time. They stuff this, they lose a lot. They could lose their whole quali position. So for Cottalessa, if he can't get a valid lap in, he is starting from P23, and that is it. Like, there's nothing else he can do. I see Manchip also joined us a bit late in P24, of course. Unfortunately, of course, because he hasn't managed to set his lap time, he will be starting from that position. And he's an AM, and their session was over about half an hour ago. 20 minutes ago. But yeah, not too much movement from the pros at the moment. Tyler comes across the line to finish his quali. Kleinen, Samuel, Panatti and Hubert all in the pits. Cottalessa will be making the same call at some point in the near future. Kurt Peters has got one lap to go. No, unfortunately he has managed to finish that. Christian Graniero coming across the final corner now. Not really on an improvement here. His sectors weren't too great, and he won't really make too much of an improvement as he comes across the line, and that is P3 for him at the moment. Valentine is currently on an improvement. Yes, he will be the last one to come across the line and set his lap time, but first it will be Cottalessa in the Ferrari. Can he manage to set a valid lap time, and where, if he does, will he come out? Will he come out at the top? Yes, he does. P2 for the Italian in the number 163, and is 8/10 behind Carr. So the quali lap time of Carr, why do I call him Qua? Of Carr in the Ford Mustang is absolutely rapid, and Valentine is also now making his way round the final corner to set his final lap time of the session. Can he improve? Can he get himself out of the last pro position coming across the line? The answer is unfortunately no. And that concludes our qualifying session. Join us again in just a few moments' time for 75 minutes of racing here at Mount Panorama Bathurst. Grab yourself a drink, grab yourself your favourite snack, maybe several snacks and several litres of water. I've only got 2, so grab as much as you need. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 6 Championship. Today you join us for round 3, and we've completed our qualifying just a few moments ago, and it is time for the race start. And you may be looking up at the top of your screen and noticing, we have an hour and a quarter of racing, 75 minutes of action awaiting us, but it is 7 p.m. and we've already elapsed 1 minute of that. Not 1 minute has elapsed in real life. Well, that's because there is a 3 times time multiplier on the session, so we will likely be ending in the dark. Yes, it will be very dark, and it will be tricky to see for these drivers especially. And unfortunately, this is a common theme. Every time that we've had a Bathurst race, it has been dark, and it can be very tricky with those constantly changing conditions. We've got those changing temperatures. So we'll go for a quick track walk, a little quick grid walk, actually, they call it. So let's go down the grid real quick. We've got Tyler Carr in P1 with Lorenzo Cottalessa taking P2. Kurt Peters in P3 with Christian Granier alongside on the second row in P4. Tim Myro in the Aston Martin. Brandon Clennon in P6. We've got Cairo Samuel in P7. Decent performance from qualifying. He was kind of keeping to the back, but he's suddenly taken it. Alessandro Panatti rounding out that little group of 8 pros right at the front. Then begin the Pro-Ams. We've got Stein van Onneker qualifying P1 for his class with George Vasiliadis in P2. So familiar names up at the front. Joshua Hubert, a pro down in P11 with Reese Valentine rounding out the Pro Grid. Then we've got Nick Novell in the Porsche P3 for his class with Cruz Mouchard alongside in the McLaren. Emery Osduru takes P15 with Josh Redhead, last race winner, in P16. And then we have a lone AM driver in P1 with Leakin Stephen making a good starting impression with his class. Jacob Curtis is the final Pro-Am driver in the Ferrari in the Ford. And then we have Nicholas Montas in that stunning Galaxy themed livery in P19 with Nick Brum in P20. Nico Zeludis brings up the rear with P21, Johan Huben in P22, and Huben was one of the drivers that was very good when he was racing previously, but I think he swapped out his vehicle for a... Why do I keep calling different cars different things? He swapped out his Nissan GTR for this Aston Martin, and I have to say I'm not quite used to that. Then we've got Tony Recroft in P23 and Aaron Manship last in the only Lexus on the grid, who has maybe gone a little far ahead of the grid and is having to wait for the... Because basically they need to keep a single file line, and if you go too far ahead or you go too far behind, you'll be reset to the pits and you'll make your race start from there with a hefty time penalty applied essentially. Now, before we go any further, the rules for the race: 75 minutes of action with a mandatory pit stop. This is for fuel. Tyres are optional and the fuel is at a fixed refueling time. So that means whatever amount of fuel you pour into the tank, it's going to be 25 seconds. The tyres are 30 seconds, so you can do both at the same time though. So when it comes to the strategy, you can either choose to put on a fresh set of tyres and lose 5 seconds, or you can stay out on your old tyres and take a chance. But of course, 75 minutes, I think you might want to go with the former option. However, you know, it's endurance racing, so you might want to see if you can keep it nice and clean. Again, it's up to the driver and their driving style, I guess, as well. Now, I'm trying to see some of the stats I have for Bathurst, but unfortunately the one thing I'm trying to see is incredibly small and I actually cannot see it, so that makes it very interesting, doesn't it? But yes, a Mount Panorama awaits us. We've been here a few times in the past in the GT3 Championship, and yeah, the action's been varying. So we've had some major crashes, we've had some great fights, we've had some controversies, and just a few weeks ago actually I was helping out with a 12-hour race here for Trackalicious as well, and we had some great action there. I was only covering the first 4 hours, but you know, it was great to see some action there as well. And yeah, you can see some pretty decent racing action here, especially into this following corner, turn 21, the chase. That's going to be the most popular overtaking opportunity on the circuit, because you've got this long straight. You can use the slipstream effect to its maximum potential, and then here just swing it maybe slightly wider, and you've got the inside line for the chicane. The only difficulty here is making sure you get your braking point right, because even when you're online, even when you've got that braking board, it's going to be a tricky thing. And I've seen many a driver wipe out here just because they're not used to braking without that brake marker right next to them, or they're just carrying too much speed. They're purely carrying way more speed than they anticipated. They brake at the usual spot and they go careening off into the gravel. But I'm sure many of our drivers will be anxious to get this race started, as I am, and we are now coming up on the start line to start the third round of the Season 6 Championship as they file into their 2 columns to get ready for the race start. And it's go time. 24 cars go roaring down to turn 1, and it's side by side between the Mustang and the Ferrari down to the first left-hander. There is a bit of argy-bargy behind between the Ferrari and the BMW, but they both make their way through there safely. The BMW is going to have the little extra power down the straight. It's a drag race down to turn 2, but ultimately he has to file back in behind, but it's a slow run down the straight for him as the McLaren now comes past and looks to take the position. Can he get alongside? Can he still stay alongside? No, he can't, and that is the BMW dropping 2 positions in the course of only 2 corners. They've barely made it to Quarry Bend and he's already lost that position. Can he make it up back into this left-hander? No, there are no opportunities here, and they do make it through safely. Further down the grid though, we do have some yellow flags. Aaron Manship was stuck right down at the bottom, and we'll have a quick look at the race replay, a full 1 minute of replay. Let's have a quick look at how this race started down at the back of the pack. We do have Aaron Manship, of course, starting from the pit lane. Tim Miro on final position, making some good progress up there. Let's see what happened to him. So all decent. We have another DSRT car ahead of him, pulling alongside to the outside. And there's the McLaren just ahead. I thought I saw something happen here, actually. I thought I saw something happen here. Alongside comes in. Oh my goodness! And the McLaren just wipes him out from behind. And unfortunately, Cairo Samuel then just got stuck up behind him. And everyone just files past. So that's what happened to Tim Miro, who's down in P23 at the moment. Very rough start for him. That is very unfortunate, but what is fortunate for Cotalesa is that he is still right up behind that Mustang. It's 0.2 seconds as they headed into that corner. Reese Valentine is closer though as Stein van Onneker goes off, and he has unfortunately caught some gravel. And can he stay ahead of Vasiliadis? No, he isn't, because the Mercedes is right ahead of him. Can Mouchard make the move down the inside? Can he keep it there? Yes, he can. Joshua Hubert also capitalizes on the mistake, and it's just one position after another. I think Stein van Onneker might have to take this and wait for it, but he's got Pennell now down the inside as well. Sorry, that is Neville down the inside, pushes him out wide, and Stein van Onneker is rapidly dropping down the grid. There goes Redhead. Now he's got Ozduru right behind him, maybe giving a little bump draft. The 2 DSRT cars maybe working together, trying to make progress up the grid, because Ozduru knows he maybe not quite got the pace. I don't know. Redhead just ahead, trying to make a move on the yellow McLaren as well. Is there potential there? Not quite, and that unfortunately is going to be a very upset 666 Ferrari. Joshua Hubert also right up on the back of Mouchard. We saw them slip through. Panasi hit with a 15-second penalty not far into the race. At the moment, closest grid positions are Leakin Stephen down in P17, and he's dropped back down to P3, so maybe a rough race start for him. It was a little bit of a touch with the wall for Mantas in the BMW ahead, and oh, there was a little bit of a look from the Ferrari, or it was just a different racing line. You know, that could be it. Jan Huben goes off at Skyline as well. What happened there? Maybe a quick little 10-30 second replay. Let's have a quick look at what happened here. So it is a little far back, granted, but we'll fix that. It'll be fine. So through the left-hander, through McPhillamy Park now, turn 10, and oh, did he hit the wall? Yes, he did, very hard. So he might have some repairs on his hands to do at some point in the near future, and that could very much damage his chances at a good finishing position. But we've got another 70 minutes of racing or so, and we catch it just in time to see Cairo Samuel go down the inside to take the position from a very damaged car. And we now have two Aston Martins in the shot who have had some very large battle scars. We've of course had Huben, who we literally just saw hit the wall really hard, and then we had Miro also collide with the McLaren ahead, and you can actually see the McLaren just ahead there on your foreground, the blue McLaren. And that is of course going to be, that's not Cairo Samuel, is it? No, Cairo Samuel is now making the move. It is in fact Ziludis, the number 66 is that blue McLaren. You can see the damage on the front, that little slit in the front. Now it's the same place where they had that collision, so kind of got to keep that in mind. Hopefully nothing happens this time round, but they're all fine. Miro not far behind, and he makes that move, and I think Ziludis was kind of just saying, you guys are the pros, you guys just move past me, I'll then have to deal with the Aston Martin behind. But he's got so much damage, I don't think it's quite worth him holding up the Aston Martin at this point in time. He's at the moment he's just a moving roadblock. It's going to be challenging for him. Oh my goodness, and there is the Mustang ahead of, who is that? There's that Curtis. I think that's Jacob Curtis. Yes, the number 3 has hit the wall hard somewhere along the track. Let's have a quick little look at the replay, see if we can catch it just in time. No, he's already had the incident. He's already had the incident here. He's had the incident before this. Hits the wall again and then again. So his steering is absolutely busted. There is nothing he can do about this. And look at that steering wheel as well. This is the live onboard stuff. Oh my days. That, man, I cannot believe it. And then Mumtaz, a little further up, was having a right old scrap up at the top. Now one scrap to also keep in mind is of course going to be T-Car and Cotalessa fighting for the race lead here. 0.4 seconds between them. So down the mountain straight, there is only 0.3 seconds between these two. They are fighting at some point in the near future, and we'll just have to see how this all pans out at any point in the near future, because they are of course fighting. Chris Mouchard and Joshua Hubert just swapped positions down the straight, so we just missed that move, but we can have a look at it with our very cool replay system. If nothing happens into turn 3, the cutting, that sharp left-hander, nothing here, and we'll have to wait until they get out of there. But we can have a quick little look at the replay between these two guys. So this is a bit far back. Chris Mouchard in the McLaren ahead. We've got Hubert behind, and let's see how this goes. So Mouchard's perspective, and he can't quite see anything from here, but this is what it looks like behind for Joshua Hubert, is right on this Mustang's McLaren's tail. Again, sorry, all these names, and then he just gets a lovely run out to the main corner, and he's just straight up past him round the outside for the next corner, and he can't quite defend it because that is a very long way to go, and it is the position gained for Joshua Hubert. I'm seeing yellow flags for Nick Novell, who is stationary somewhere. He is stationary on the hill somewhere. Yes, Novell is dropping down the order. What's happening? Nick Novell has got back to moving status, so we'll just have a quick little look at the replay for a second. Let's just see what happened here as well. Again, apologies if it is long, and we just catch it in time to see him hit the barrier on the right-hand side, heading into Solman Park, then through the long left-hander of McPhillamy. He can just about keep that car on track, but you can see he goes wide into the gravel trap. Skyline, he's still fine. Skyline is still okay. Do the left hand, but he can't turn left. Oh my goodness, his steering's gone as well. His steering is shot. So he can turn right, but he can't turn left. And it's basically the opposite problem of a NASCAR driver at this point, is the Porsche. And I think here, just behind that group of trees, he then pulls over to let the other drivers pass, but then pulls up right on the entrance there to the corner. Maybe not the best spot to stop on track. And we see him pull into the pits now, because that is a lot of damage. That is a ton of damage, and he'll be sitting in the pits for a good couple minutes there. Nicholas Mumtas, though, is right up on the rear end of Nick Broom for P15, though, P14, and that is actually the AM class lead. Yes, things have happened so quickly. Broom is now leading this pack of AMs, with Mumtas not far behind, half a second there, and then it's 2.3 seconds to Jan Huben, who of course had that incident earlier on. I'm just wondering what happened to Steven, because he's now down in P4 and Huben's had a crash, so Steven must have had an issue somewhere as well. We might have a look at some of our first official crash replays. We kind of get the ones that are kind of involuntary, just a quick little boop, you know, just check it's okay. Yeah, we had a yellow flag from car 27, who is of course Rucroft down in P20, so let's have a quick look there. So this is Rucroft's perspective, or, well, not really perspective, this is him heading into the chase. And does he get stopped? Yes he does, but unfortunately he spins out on the corner carrying a little too much entry speed, and he's kind of trapped there at the end. And does he do a resafe jointly? Yes he does. He resafes somewhat jointly. But Kurt Peters and Christian Graniero just swapped positions as we were watching that other incident. And as you can see, time is marching on, 10 minutes in, and it's already getting dark, so we might have to adjust on the settings at some point, but I don't know, we'll take it as it comes. I haven't done it before, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Whoa! Full speed into the left-hander of the cutting. Graniero maybe not quite happy with letting Kurt Peters get away with that move so easily. And that happened just as we were watching some of the other action happen. Now the grid already starts to split off into their little groups. Tyler Carr and Lorenzo Cottalessa still in the race lead, 1.5 seconds between them. But then it's a 4-second gap to Brandon Klein, and similar gap to Kurt Peters behind. Then it's of course just a second between these two cars who we are following right now. Under a second for Tim Miro and Cairo Samuel. Some familiar names, these two trying to rejoin their brothers up in P8 and P6, the other pro drivers. And while I say that, Vasiliadis of course continues on. He's got a good run. Stein von Unneke, yellow flag on the mountain again, and he's just teleported straight to the pits. We're going to need a replay on that. So here's Stein. Here's von Unneke in the 666, making his way round the long right-hander of turn 2, Quarry Bend. Now into the cutting. So I think it happened around the Skyline time. It happened around Skyline area. So we just have to kind of be patient. But of course we've seen everyone steering get wrecked, and then, you know, it just keeps, it's a snowball effect. It's a chain effect. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Don't know, he's still firing through the right-hander, through the S's, through the various parks, Raid Park, then Silman Park, and now heading into McPhillamy Park, and that's where it stops. Oh. Apologies for the replay not quite giving us all the info we need, but all the info we need though is Cairo and Samuel soon to swap positions, and you can see the damage to Samuel's car ahead. That might be due to the lap 1 incident we saw down at turn 2, out of no fault of his own. Heading into turn 1, Miro had a little nudge, he had a little look in there, but nothing quite happening there. Miro, again, it's an old battle here. Miro kind of spun out, and then Samuel kind of drove into the side of him, but there was nothing he could do really. It was more Zaludis who we had an issue with, because he's the one that took him out from behind. Heading into turn 2, there's the look from the Aston Martin, going down the inside. Is he later on the brakes? No, he isn't. He just had a look. That might compromise his exit out of the corner, but, you know, he's got the whole mountain section to work on. Down into turn 3, could we see a move here? No, he does back off to give him a little extra space, because it is a very challenging section to get through, and you're going to need all the space you can get. Joshua Hubert within a second of George Vasiliadis for P7. That's a potential battle on our hands as well, but it is between the Pro-Am and the Pro. Now, the strategies here when it comes to interclass racing for Hubert, well, there we go, a little business exchange. The Mercedes just pulls out a little bit, maybe lifts off the throttle, or he just had such a rubbish exit, it looked on purpose. But the strategy, if Vasiliadis was to start fighting for this position, he needs to keep in mind he's probably going to start slowing them down, which brings him within reaching distance of Chris Mouchard, who is only 5 seconds away. So there's that issue. If he starts fighting for it, he needs to keep that in mind. But the reason he might want to fight for that is because having a pro behind him, having that extra driver between him and the P2 position at the moment, means that he's kind of got that safety buffer. And as you can see, Mouchard is just coming around the final corner now. So if Mouchard is faster than this driver, if he had this pro still behind him, he would have an extra person to go through. That's kind of the thinking behind that. But at the same time, for Hubert, it's important that he gets past and gets that move done so that he can start working on the gaps ahead and catch up to his fellow drivers. Now, here we go. Cairo and I'm just looking at the names. Cairo and Samuel, who we saw tangle earlier. They've swapped positions, so the McLaren, yeah, the damage to that McLaren is already showing. You can see the headlights flicker on and off a little bit there as they came over the humps, because it is, you know, when you've got damage, the telltale sign is the lights are flickering on and off. Lincoln Stephen, though, is one driver to keep in mind. P3 at stake here for the AM class. Hubin, of course, had his little incident. There goes Stevens, a little look down the inside, and that's forced Hubin out wide. Who will get the better exit out here? The Ferrari lays down the power, so does the Aston Martin into the left-hander, and there is nothing at this point on the table for the Ferrari, but he had a look down the inside, put Hubin off guard, and that kind of forced him wide. Couple good mind games being played here. Fair play, Stephen. Keep it up. Keep up that assault, and you might find yourself in the position higher than that. And Redhead has had some sort of issue. No, he hasn't, sorry. He's just getting absolutely blasted by these pros as they try and filter through the traffic. Now, unfortunately, Cairo Samuel was that driver to get caught up behind Redhead, and Redhead does pull to the inside to potentially allow the McLaren through easily. And he does just stick to his line because he doesn't want to affect his run. He just wants to keep doing his stuff. He just wants to keep going at top speed. But eventually, the McLaren does pull past and ahead. So I don't think that flashing was malicious. I think that was just Redhead saying, no problem, you know, all good. Maybe Cairo would given him kind of like a little indicator thing and said, that's fine. Nicholas Mumtas down in P14, though, having a battle with Brum for the AM class race leaders down the inside in the chase, but not quite far enough alongside to be warranted any racing room. And Brum manages to stay ahead, but this is a battle that has been brewing for a little bit. And as they fight, of course, Jan Hubin can close that gap. It's now within 2 seconds. There you can see the whole top four of the AM class that could potentially start scrapping over the race lead for their class at this point in time. And yes, it is down in the AM class. Yes, it's down for P13. But usually, these battles a little further down the grid, for these drivers that have got nothing to lose, can be some of the best fights in the entire championship, just because again they've got nothing to lose. They just need to full send. Mumtas does have a 5-second time penalty, though. Do keep that in mind. So when it comes to the pit stops, that will bring him back. So it's essentially for him, he wants to get ahead and build up a 5-second gap over these guys, over all these drivers, over all the drivers in the AM class, to then stay ahead when he comes out of his pit stop, or he pits early, which at this point in time is not quite a valid strategy because it is only 57 minutes in, but it is a rough exit for Brum through the left-hander, and the BMW collects the ball once again. A little bit of contact there with the right barrier, but he continues on. He soldiers on. That BMW is very resilient, and I mean all the GT3 cars really are built to survive a couple hits. Oh my goodness, and Jacob Curtis over the major accident, and the whole front bonnet is up at the minute. Wow. Yeah, we're gonna need to have a look at this replay, and we just catch it into the dipper. So Skyline into the dipper, And man, this evening has just gotten worse for the man in the Mustang. That is unfortunate. There's just nothing else for it. He's already had a major accident, had another major accident. Here comes Deludis in the background to overtake. Pulls to the outside, blue flag, and gets onto the grass and into the barriers. And yeah, kind of just tries to rejoin on track, does manage to do so, but then his steering's just completely shot into the wall. And yeah, at this point, he's just a man trying to get to the pit lane, suffering, and he does make his way in there eventually. He has made his way back into the pit lane, so hopefully he can get that damage fixed and back out onto the racing circuit. But with all that happening, Tyler Carr and Lorenzo Cottalessa switched positions again. All this action happening all over the place, and Brandon Kleinen is still fine. Sorry, I just saw a yellow flag there for a second. Again, we're going to have a quick look at what happened between Cottalessa and Carr for the race lead, although it might be a little far back, so we might wait a little bit of time. We might wait a little, but it was a yellow flag apparently for Carr in the number 2, so we can have a look at that incident. So there's Cairo Samuel in the background. He had a car hit the wall there, or unless this was the incident between these guys, and Cairo Samuel just goes straight on. We can't get the car stopped. So that was for an entirely different incident, not the one we were seeing between Carr and the other driver. So yes, Cottalessa assumes the race lead, while the number 2 has to succeed to that position. He does take P2, or he drops back in behind P2. Johan Huben currently, for some reason, with a white flag. I don't know why. Could be just in that section. But yeah, Cairo Samuel has pitted. So has Nicholas Mumtaz and Jacob Curtis. There is an incident for 888, I believe. No, there is no incident for 888 at the moment, but we do have plenty of incidents and crashes to go through at some point today, so don't worry, we will get round to all this stuff later. But yes, at the moment then, Tyler Carr in P2 in the number 2 car, and Cottalessa is getting caught up on Rucroft just ahead, as you can see. Will this work in Carr's favour? I think it will, because he has managed to get past that back marker a lot faster. He's still within 0.4 seconds of the race leader, so as long as he can stay there. Oh my goodness, and there's Rucroft into the barriers down by the dipper, and oh my goodness, that was a big hit for the driver of that Aston Martin. Let's have a quick look at that. I don't think it was anything to do with the leaders. Let's have a quick look at it from the helicam. So he lets the Ferrari through, stays wide, stays predictable. The Mustang though has to dive for the inside. Onto the curb, no, he keeps it clean into Skyline. So fine through there. Fine through the right-hander. Oh my goodness, and they just can't get the car stopped. Absolutely launched into the right-hand barrier at the end of the dipper. And that is again some major damage to a GT3 car. Now he has dropped down to P18, but to be honest, he wasn't really in too high a position to start with anyways, and the rest of the grid is starting to come across to lap him now. As you can see, Brandon Klein is absolutely flying past him. So we do have our first set of pit stops in, and as a guide as to how they work, you will see a little orange number 1 right next to the driver number and colour box, and that is their mandatory pit stop. If it's orange with a 1 in the middle, it means they have not made their mandatory pit stop. They still have 1 pit stop left. And if they have a green square right next to their car number, it means they have made their pit stop. And Zaludis, oh, he's slow on the mountain. The mountain claims yet another victim. These walls have got hands. They are dropping drivers left, right and centre. And this is car number 66, and there is an incident listed for him. Let's have a quick look at what happened here. If we can survive the Skyline and the rest of this little section here. Yeah, he's fine. So yeah, let's have a quick little look at what happened here. So oh my goodness, just on the wall for ages. Oh my goodness, and Nick Neville with an absolutely brilliant dive to the right hand side of the track. The little twitch. Oh my goodness, what a save. Almost into the back of the McLaren. Oh my goodness, and yeah, the evening's just gotten worse for Zilidus as he now pulls out onto Conrod Straight, and there's nothing he can do. He's at the mercy of these cars coming past, and he does go out onto the grass, takes out some polystyrene, and now there's debris all over the track. That is not ideal, but in ACC it's not too bad. And again, the steering is so hard to keep straight on the car where the steering angle is completely destroyed. Let's have a quick look at what this looks like from his perspective. Let's go on board with his helmet cam. And yeah, you can see how much input he's having to put into that steering wheel. He's just not getting anything out of it. Just can't get anything out of it, and he's just struggling. Nicholas Mumtaz with a similar issue. What happened to this driver? The number 18 once more, maybe finding the walls of Bathurst a challenge, just as we've seen Zaludis do. Let's have a look at this incident here. So into turn 3, the cutting, the left-hander. And you can see how quickly it's gotten dark as well. Stays wide for the next corner. Goes in. Oh my goodness, and loses it on the exit. Straight smack into the wall. And he does keep it over to the right-hand side of the circuit. Good heads-up driving from the number 18. Good job for preventing any other nasty incidents. Johan Huben also going slow. Is that also maybe an incident? No, he's coming up on Mumtaz right now. So that is P14 and therefore P3 for this driver in the AM class. And while this has been happening, nothing too much has gone on with the drivers up at the top. Aaron Manship now coming up on Mumtaz as well in the Lexus, and he's still fine. He's still doing okay. But yeah, so the mountain, we've had about 10 casualties, I reckon. If someone's someone could keep count of how many times we've had an incident, I'll be very impressed. First of all, I'd be very impressed if you know how many we've had at the moment. And secondly, yeah, it's an approximation. I work in approximations. I'm the guy that would say, 25 minutes, half an hour. Same thing for me. But yeah, unfortunately, that means Mumtaz now pulls into the pits yet again, and everyone's it's all a bit up in the air as the darkness closes in. It's 8:37 p.m. at the moment trackside, and we still have 50 minutes of racing. We've barely gotten past. We're not even at the halfway mark. I was going to say we've barely gotten past it. We're not past the halfway mark yet. The halfway mark is going to be half of 75 minutes. So if you do quick maths, commentator maths sucks, as anyone will tell you. But it's about 38 minutes. We've got another 10 minutes or so before we hit the halfway mark. And it's around then that you can anticipate the first pit stops happening, because if you're joining us for the first time, welcome first of all. You join us in a time of great distress and terror and gnashing of teeth as darkness now hits the mountain of Bathurst, Mount Panorama, or Wahlu as it's called by the indigenous local people. But yeah, this mountain has claimed several drivers tonight, and we've seen plenty of drivers go face to face with the wall in more ways than one, and in various positions and in various ways. We've had straight up head-to-head stuff. We've literally had drivers take on these walls literally head-to-head. We've had some guys do a side check, try and give it a shoulder shove, and unfortunately they just find actually the wall's a lot more solid than a flimsy little carbon fibre chassis. Well, chassis won't be made out of carbon fibre, but the body parts are made out of carbon fibre, and they find, oh, actually, the wall's a little harder than our carbon fibre body shell, and of course that doesn't work out as well as they think it does, but I don't think anyone did that on purpose. Unfortunately, the wall just claimed it, and Brum pulls into the pit stops to start off the rampage of pit stops, as Steven now takes P1 for his class. He takes the race lead for the AM class. And yes, if you're joining us for the first time again, welcome. This is a 3-class championship. So we've got AMs, which is the red squares, we've got the Pro-Ams, which is the grey squares, and then you've got the Pros, which is the white squares, which are the white squares. Sorry, grammar has gone out the window a long time ago tonight. I've had a rough week, alright? Don't pick on me. Although, to be fair, the chat's been really quiet, so there's nothing really to worry about when it comes to that kind of thing. But yeah, cheers to you 4 viewers who are on at the moment. You make my day, the fact that you're just on. And also, we do have the Twitch side of things, of course. We can't forget that. We do have another 2 on there, so that's kind of 6 viewers there, and Cairo Samuel much earlier said, yes, it is an hour and a quarter of walls. But yeah, darkness has well and truly fallen, with Lorenzo Cottalessa maintaining the race lead. He started off the race in P2 after Tyler Carr managed to set an absolutely awesome lap time. He secured pole position, but then about 10-20 minutes into the race, again, working generalities, I work in kind of general terms, or rounding up and rounding down, Tyler Carr dropped behind the Ferrari, and yeah, the Ferrari's just kind of run away with it. The 163 is currently sending it with a 2:01.5 as his last lap time, compared to the 2:02 dead from Carr behind, but the fastest laps do vary by a tenth. So these drivers are very tightly matched. So it could be that Carr is going for the long-term strategy. He's just trying to preserve his tyres as much as he can, and Aaron Manchip is moving slowly. No, he's at Tony Rucroft. I think it's Tony Rucroft who was moving slowly. I think he's had an incident, but Jacob Curtis is stationary on the track. No, again, something's happened here for the driver. Oh my goodness. Oh man, things just keep going wrong for the number 3. Okay, let's have a look at this brace. Here we go. Through a couple of the park names, and just loses it. Rear end, can he keep it? Yes, he does. To the left-hander, and no, he just can't keep it. Straight into the wall. Not too bad though. It wasn't too bad. It was just a little nudge, so that's fine. He then had another incident a couple minutes later, actually only a couple seconds later, as he now goes off there. So here we go, through Skyline, into the dipper, still fine there, and then just gets whacked from behind by Ferrari, no, and gets spun round, and that's where we found him before. Oh dear. This is the 3rd time we've seen Curtis pull into the pits for an unplanned pit stop. He's been on fresh tyres for the last 15. He's been on fresh tyres for the last half an hour. That has just been the poor luck of this Mustang driver. Oh man, I cannot believe it. This driver's just seen too much already. I will be surprised if he pulls back out again, to be honest. I will be surprised, because he is very far behind these drivers at the moment, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to pull out. It's going to be tough to get back out there and do stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure whether he's going to. I'm not sure whether he's going to pull out. I'm not going to lie. He's going to struggle. He's going to struggle, and he is just going to be in the pits for a while because he does have all that damage. Ay ay ay. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, one driver, in fact, rather, to keep an eye on, is going to be Joshua Hubert in the Porsche, the number 1. Aiming to be number 1, but unfortunately still only number 7 at this point. He's 2.5 seconds of Alessandro Panatti ahead in the McLaren, and he is about 7/10, half a second faster than the driver ahead. So if he can close, I'm sure he'll close that gap very quickly at some point. So if that's half a second a lap, and he's at 2.6, that should take him about 5 laps. Make it 2 minutes a lap. That's about 10 minutes. I guess that should be his aim. But pit stops are going to be rolling around soon. 42 minutes left in the race, and there are only 38 minutes as a halfway kind of marker, as Lorenzo Cottastella pulls into the pits at the moment. And you can see there's the BMW of Montas as well. And everyone starts coming past the Ferrari now. All hell will break loose with these standings, boys. Don't pay attention to it. It will just keep looking worse and worse and worse. Things will keep happening, and you'll keep seeing these positions change. It's going to be, it's not really too much point trying to make sense of what's happening now with all the pit stops. But all I do know, Cottastella pits from the race lead. So does Hubert, who you'll be trying to come out, hopefully, ahead of Panatti, who actually has a 15-second penalty. So when he does stop, he'll have to wait an extra 15 seconds. Interesting. So Hubert could end up gaining that position anyways, regardless of where he comes out. Moonchild also pits. Vasiliadis in the race lead for the Pro-Ams. We'll be thinking about that at some point soon. But as he's in the lead, he might just stay ahead. He does have a pace advantage over the rest of the Pro-Ams. Currently doing a 203.5 versus the 203.8 of Chris Mouchard, who's next in position. And just to give you an idea of what this looks like, we'll go on board with 163, who is coincidentally, I believe, our race leader, Lorenzo Cottastella, who was our race leader previously. This is what it looks like from his perspective heading into the mountain. This is on the helmet cam, literally as close to the driver as you can get. This is eyesight pretty much. We've got the fast left and right handers. Barriers just centimetres away from the sides of your car. Fast left-hander. There's these tiny little inputs and tiny little things that you put into the steering and the brakes and the accelerator that just keep the car balanced and stable enough to go through it at as fast a pace as you can manage, or as fast a pace as the car can manage. There's the dipper. That was the scariest corner on the circuit. Through this right-hander, get the braking down nice and early, and get to the power incredibly early. It is a very scary corner. Yes, you can get it wrong in very many ways. Getting on too early, getting on too late, all that can happen. But one thing we didn't quite see happening was Tim Miro going into the wall at the cutting down at turn 3, and he tries wall riding like we've seen a NASCAR driver do it in the past before. But unfortunately it doesn't quite work at Bathurst. There are a few extra little things there, potentially even a few animals there as well. Yes, we do have lots of wildlife, and one of them is of course going to be the thing that Australia is probably most well renowned for, one of the things at least, the kangaroo. Yes, the eastern grey kangaroo to be specific. It is listed as a species of least concern by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. Random fact, do with it what you will. Stein van Onneker, not quite least concern, as he does get past Roycroft now and kind of just gives the position to him because he is in the higher class. Aaron Manship, a white flag somewhere down there, but also fine. Kurt Peters and Christian Garniero have made their pit stops, and they come out right behind each other actually, so this could be a potential battle on our hands to keep in mind as well. But one thing that wasn't battling, or that doesn't regularly battle out here in New South Wales, is the eastern grey kangaroo, who in fact takes care of its babies called Joeys right from the start, and it is just one baby, and they typically live up to 10 years, between 8 and 10 years. That's a long time. Kind of, you know, dog years, they would be about 70 by the time they die, so that's the same kind of amount of time. But what I found quite interesting is that their group name is Mob. So a group of kangaroos, so you know, you've got a herd of sheep or a herd of cows or whatever. I don't know what those groups are called, but you know, a school of fish. This thing is called a mob of kangaroo. So yeah, we hope the mobs don't turn up tonight. They'll hopefully be sleeping as the race cars make their way around the mountain. And yeah, the pit stops are in full swing at the moment. Your top 3 isn't really going to stay as your top 3 for long. Tyler Carr made his pit stop, and I think he did opt to go for the extra little bit of tyres. So he's going to be on a fresh set, 7 seconds longer than Cotalesa, which means he's now 13 seconds behind the car of the Cotalesa in the 163. And we can stream Car's point of view, of course. I do apologise. I've only seen this now, and it has taken me a long time to get around to it. Yes, but that's because it is a very... yeah, I don't know. I just completely forgot about it, to be fair. So this is right from the dash. Alessandro Panatti and George Vasiliadis also pit from the race lead. So everyone at this point in time is going to have their pit stops done. It's only Redhead, Stephen and Huben who have yet to do theirs, as well as von Orneken, who's down in P18. Joshua Hubert, though, back on his old rival, Mouchard, the old interclass rival. And I don't anticipate this interaction being too long. Hubert's got places to be, places to go. He didn't make his way ahead. No, actually, he didn't manage to get ahead of Penati. Even though Penati had his issue, even though he had his 15 seconds, he didn't manage to make his way past. Interesting. Interesting. And Vasiliadis now, oh my goodness, there's all sorts of stuff happening here. So we've got Stevens in the Ferrari ahead, Vasiliadis in the Pro-Am car behind, and then Johan Huben not too far behind as well. So the AMs mixing it up here with the Pros and the Pro-Ams. In fact, Huben is looking a bit racy behind the Mercedes, could make a move on this driver, but he still needs to make his pit stop, so he kind of needs to keep that in mind. 0.4 seconds between them. Yeah, Huben absolutely sending it through the mountain section, through Sector 2, and now into Skyline. Chris Mouchard and Joshua Hubert just swapped positions a little further down in the mountain section as well. I want to see this overtake. Hold it. Oh, it's already made. Oh, actually, no, we made it before we even got to the cutting. So actually, he didn't. He made that move before they got to the mountain section, to be fair. Never mind me. Oh, but we didn't see that. We didn't see that side, that little hip check into the wall. That seems to be a popular spot for a hip check. And then, of course, Mouchard having to maybe back off slightly on the throttle so as not to end up hitting the rear end of that Porsche at some point in the near future. Again, that wall has got hands, and it's not afraid to swing him. Tim Miro looking to make his way past Mouchard as well, so that he can start fighting with Hubert for P10, which class-wise is going to be P7. And Miro kind of just doing his thing, just waiting for Mouchard to kind of either pull over, which is probably not going to happen, or just going to kind of, yeah, just wait for it. Just wait it out. Just get past with as little resistance as possible. Now, interestingly, Kalinen got past Carr, and I think that might have happened very recently because Carr is now right up behind Brandon Kalinen. I didn't see that move. Is there going to be a replay for it? Moment of truth. No. Let's see what this looks like from the McLaren driver's perspective, though, because each car has kind of got a different altitude, if you will. So the McLaren, it's a lot lower than with the Mustang or the Mercedes, BMW. That's also quite low car. You can see in that little camera there. I think that is actually the McLaren. That's Brandon. No, this is Brandon Kalinen. I'm confused. He's got Josh Redhead ahead though, who is maybe not quite giving him the space that he wanted. But there we go, side by side. We come back just in time to see the action as Carr makes the move for the race P2 position. I was almost saying race lead, but they're still side by side. Good space between them. Still alongside each other as they power down the mountain straight. Will Carr managed to get alongside and brake later into the next corner. The Mustang has got the power on the straight. It's not quite enough straight to let him pass though, as the McLaren continues to defend his position. Kalinen goes wide though. He does maintain his momentum into turn 3 though. Could we see the Mustang try to go around the outside for the cutting, cut back to the inside? He tried it. He was kind of looking towards the outside right from the get-go. And then, unfortunately, couldn't quite get it, but they're side by side now through the mountain section, and he'll instead go around the long way into the right-hander of turn 5 and 6, and through Griffin's Mountain into Raid Park. T-Car takes P2, while Kalinen has to drop back to P3. Wow, what an overtake. Incredible move. Incredible stuff. And soon we'll see Joshua Hubert make a move on to Steven. It's an interclass thing. Joshua Hubert trying to make progress up to his fellow brothers and sisters in the pros, and he dives for that apex, gets the move done, and Stevens just kind of doesn't stop him or get in the way at all. He just gives it to him straight. Now we've got traffic though. We do have a Mustang, a DSR team, Aston Martin though. Sorry, DSRT Aston Martin, not Mustang. Again, sorry. Brand names in the dark are tricky. And even in daylight, they're tricky if you've had a rough week. And it might be a rough time for Carr trying to defend into the chase. Under braking. Can the McLaren pull alongside? No, he can't. And it would have been a very optimistic move if he had. Kurt Peters isn't too far behind. 2 seconds there. So these guys keep fighting. That could bring Kurt Peters and Christian Graniero into the fight as well. At the moment, Tyler Carr is just kind of defending his position. It is a 0.8 second difference in best lap between the Mustang and the McLaren. So in terms of the overall pace, the Mustang probably has a little more. I'm seeing Chris Mouchard into the pits doing, I think, his mandatory pit stop. I just saw cars kind of dropping, cars gaining positions rapidly, and it's a bit confusing there. But your class leaders then, at the moment, it's Cotalessa in the Pro Class lead and P1. He's currently 17 seconds behind ahead, sorry. My brain is going through something at the moment. I've just had a really rough week. I do apologise. Oh my goodness, and there's an Aston Martin into the gravel at the end. But he's safe though. It's still all good. Cotalessa, your race leader, 17 seconds ahead of Carr in P2, and then Brandon Clennon only a second behind in the final podium position. And then for your Pro-Ams, it is Vasiliadis down in P7, currently leading the Pro-Am class with Chris Mouchard in P11 as the number 11 car. Call it fate or call it a curse, it's up to you. Josh Redhead, P13 in the number 9 car, but that is a much bigger gap as well. So yes, 75 minutes of racing does tend to break up the groups a bit, does tend to separate the classes, and yeah, racing is then a little bit of a... You tend to see more accidents than actual racing, which is a bit disappointing. You know, at the end of the day, you're here to watch the racing, you're here to see some drivers absolutely hash it out with each other for positions. But you know, again, yeah, it's up to you. You know what you're here for. I'm here just to watch and call the action. And thank you if you've stuck around so far. I do appreciate we haven't had quite as many people in the chat tonight. Except for Christopher Angrusani, who asked for a stream of Car's perspective. We saw a brief little run on the bonnet from him, but nothing too major really. Jacob Curtis in the pits again. He came out. He's back into the pits again. The number 3 car had another incident. I'm scared. I'm scared to watch this. So Curtis, with all that he's been through tonight, back out on the mountain, through Griffin's Mount, through Raid Park, loses it again on the same spot, and I'm assuming straight into the barriers, and smashed his car to bits. This is like the 3rd time that's happened tonight. It looks like Kelly Stevens maybe also not had the best time. He's also all over the place on the chase now. Maybe just a little bit of a little too late braking, and he pulls into the pits to do his pit stop. Now he is the only driver yet to do his mandatory stop, so that will be good timing for him. Huben will then resume the race lead, or assume it. English at, what is this, 9:30 PM GMT after a busy week on a Friday evening. I think most people can understand that my brain is probably a little mushy right now. Although to be fair, it's mushy 90% of the time. Same front one occurred. Nick Novell drops a position. What's happened to Nick Novell is his car alright? It is looking a little wavy. Let's have a look again from the helmet cam. Unless it's just his driving style, I don't know. Is it just me though? Or is he having to turn that wheel a lot more to the left than what I'm used to? It doesn't quite seem like a proportionate amount. Unless, I haven't driven a Porsche though. It does look like he has to keep that steering wheel at an angle though. I do think there is damage to his car. I do think there is something there. Something's happened to the Porsche somewhere. On the straight, we'll see what the angle of a steering wheel is. to ascertain the amount of damage. Doesn't look too bad, to be fair. Looks alright. You know, it's fine. It's fine. Sorry, I was just calling something that wasn't there. So yeah, things have now stabilised there in Manship. Yellow flags / white flags, everyone else do same thing. I don't know what's happening there. And Stephen's still in his pit stops. I'm assuming he just had a little bit of extra damage, a little bit of extra stuff to take care of. Of course, he did go off just before he came into the pit, so you know, keep that in mind as well. And the usual 25 to 30 second pit stop. But now we only have half an hour remaining in the race, and 25 minutes remaining in the race. Sorry, you can tell my brain's kind of a bit mush again. You know, it feels like 9:47 p.m. on a Friday night after a busy week, you know. So yeah, hopefully I can keep you guys company though, because Leakin Stephen now comes out of the pits, and oh, he does shove Manship into the quarry bend wall, and a couple of the cars behind decide to take advantage of the situation and get their lap done. Stephen, yeah, he made sure Manship stayed behind there. Not quite the cleanest thing to happen. Oh my goodness, and Zuludis, again a slow moving car down by the chase, but something's happened to the number 66. Again, we'll have to go back in time. We do have few incidents here. Let's have a look at what happened here. So into Skyline, left and right, then right into the dipper. Oh my goodness, and just loses it, and again head on headbutts that wall. And we saw Tony Rucroft do that earlier this race, just try and headbutt the car into the wall. And yeah, that doesn't tend to work too well, as he's finding out right now with 4.5 minutes in the pit. Same for Jacob Curtis. To be honest though, I am very impressed at some of these drivers who continue racing despite all the atrocities that the mountain has committed against them. It really is very impressive, top notch. You know, great to see you guys push in all the way and keep going. Tim Miro in the pits as well, last pro driver. Something's happened to him as well. The number 268 has had an incident somewhere. Let's go back to our timestamps. Yes, I can see something here. Oh my goodness, so caught in the dipper, and he can't quite even get the car facing the right way as well. Oh, car coming! Oh dear. Oh shoot! Ay, ay, ay. So that will explain why there's a McLaren in the pits. That would explain why Ziludis is in the pits. Let's see, number 66. I want to see the on-board for this thing. No, sorry, that's not the number 66 who came in. That was a different McLaren. This was just Ziludis tiptoeing his way through the final corners, and again you can see how much damage he's got on that car. And I've just noticed as well, yes, we're in the replay, but you can still see the pit stop, kind of the pit lane happening there. So who was that McLaren? That was Ozduru. That was Ozduru who had the incident. That's the number 343 who had that crash with the car we just saw. I want to see it from his perspective. Last incident he had. Moving slowly. This was after the incident though, so you can see how much damage his car has, and he just can't turn left, and he's kind of stranded there on the final corner before you hit the Conrad straight. But something happened before this as well. Something happened before this. Let's see what happened here. Was this it? I think this might be it. No, it's even earlier. He was absolutely flying through. So I think that was down by Griffin's Mount. And again, every time you hit that wall, your car's taking more and more damage. This is turning into a nightmare. Oh my goodness. This is well and truly turned into a nightmare for the 343. Okay, Let's go back in time to an even earlier incident. So we have 1, 2. This should be different though. This might be the incident. So into Quarry Bend. Long right-hander. All good. He sees the yellow flag. Oh no, it was here. The left-hander. Charging in. Oh my goodness, there's the Aston Martin. Smashes into the side of him. And that's what did most of the damage initially. And then of course he hit the wall a few more times. Damages the rest of the car even more. Tyler Carr, currently yellow flag, and he's stopped on the side of the road as well. Oh my goodness, I can't even press the replay button fast enough. Ay, 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 Carr, who was doing so well this race, has DNF'd. Carr has left the lobby. Oh my goodness. And unfortunately we won't know what happened then. We won't know what happened to him. Oh, man, that sucks. This mountain is just claiming victims left, right and centre. At this point, it's not even a race to see who can finish first. It's 17 seconds to Brandon Clanen. Cottalessa is just absolutely running away with it at the moment. He's almost he's a half a sector ahead, pretty much. And yeah, everyone else is just kind of being dropped by Bathurst. Everyone else is just taking body shots and headshots from this place. And yeah, the mountain just continues to claim victims. He just goes, you have a blow, you have a blow, you have a blow. And we're left with 21 cars. We've had 3 cars leave the session. Curtis once again in the pits, same with Mumtaz and Ozduru. Ah, man. I mean, hats off to those gents though. Hats off to the drivers who are able to stick it out till the end. Yes, they have seen the wall too many times. Yes, they will probably absolutely hate Bathurst from now on. They will probably hate Mount Panorama from now on, or they will have PTSD from driving in the evening at Bathurst. All in all, yeah, it's an evening to forget for them. It really is. It just sucks. This is hard. To be fair, yeah, I've had this once before. In the dark, not quite the dark though. I was racing in the wet at Bathurst, and I was doing all right. You know, managed to make my way into the top 10. It was all right, and then yeah, on the final lap, had an incident down into Forest Elbow, turn 17 and 18, which is coming up now actually, in just a few corners time. They're making their way through the dipper now, through the right-hander of turn 17. Here we go, lost it about here, hit the wall, and then limped down the pit, limped down the 2 kilometre long Conrod straight, and there was just, it just sucks. It really does. Your heart is just heavy, and at the moment, yeah, it is a heavy heart for Ozduru, Zilidis, Rucroft, Curtis and Mumtaz. But again, as I said, hats off to these gents who just continue to get back out there and keep racing. And you know, at the end of the evening, that in and of itself takes a lot of sportsmanship. You know, it's big that these guys are willing to continue racing in a race that they don't want to be a part of, but they will compete purely based on sportsmanship. It really is it's such an encouragement to see these guys do that. They're an inspiration to many, for sure, 100%. So Ziludis is back out, so is Tony Rucroft. Ozduru is also out as well, and Tamiro is also back out. And yeah, again, hats off to these chaps who've taken a hit from Bathurst. They've recovered and they're back for round 2, and for many of them they're actually back for round 4 or round 5, and yeah, they're maybe not quite as enthusiastic about the whole thing. Now we do have some other situations going on. The 888 had an incident at some point, so did the 999 actually of Manship. Something happened there. Let's have a, oh, Manship's had plenty. Oh, I'm seeing plenty of things happening with Manship's car. Let's have a quick look at what happened here as a listed incident. So into Skyline, he's still fine. He's got a Ferrari behind. It is a lapping car. That's Dane von Ornekerder in the 666. And he just, oh, sent into the wall by an impatient Ferrari. Down at the dipper. Wow. Impatient is the first word that comes to mind, but also, I swear he slammed on the brakes there. He did pull on the brakes a little bit. Joshua Hubert managed to make P6 off of Vassiliadis, the Pro-Am driver, and again, not too much point in fighting that too hard, because at the end of the day, he's a pro, you're a Pro-Am. If you just keep it clean, you can maintain your race lead, and if you do end up taking a loss, if you do end up tangling, that's not a good thing. You could end up, smashing your car to bits, and then your race lead's gone. Could be the next person's. So there's all that stuff to keep in mind. But as we head into the final 15 minutes of the race, we have got Lorenzo Cottalessa in the race lead at the moment for the Pro class. We've got George Vassiliadis in P1 for the Pro-Ams, and then P1 for the Ams is Johan Huben, who we saw right at the start take a hit from the wall. And he's managed to recover all the way back up to P1. Well, I would say recover back up to P1. He's actually made it up to P1, as the other drivers have maybe, either their pace has just not quite stayed together, they haven't quite managed to get along with Bathurst as well as he has. Maybe their pace just sucking, but Tamiro, yellow flag. What's happened here? Tamiro into the pits. Again, incident for the 268. Let's have a look what's happened here. So absolutely sending it through these left-handers. Tamiro is a driver who has had some incidents tonight already. He's already gone face-to-face with Bathurst's walls into Skyline, loses it, and slides into the barrier. Absolutely roundhouse kicked and left at the bottom of Skyline. Oh man, again, this sucks for the Aston Martin driver. This is like the 5th time we've seen him in this position, and Curtis is also in the pits still a little further along. So is Mumtaz. And yeah, it just sucks for these drivers. They've put aside 75 minutes of their evening to come and race with us, and unfortunately what's happened to them is they've just seen the wall a couple of times. And yeah, it does suck, but it's racing, unfortunately. For some days that's what happens. Stijn van Onneker with a 5-second time penalty. The 666 down in P13. And not too far behind or not too far ahead actually, P11, Brum and Mouchard are fairly close together, so that might be a move coming at some point. And Brum, a little weave. We've seen some. Oh my goodness! And there's an incident. We'll have to go back and see what that looked like. Hold up. Oh my goodness! What happened there? Let's go on board for this. So, into the final corner. You can see the difference in braking between these two. It might be the Brum's on an old tyre set, or he's just got a better setup. Fence, weaves a little into the braking zone and just collects him. Oh my goodness, a classic case of just braking too late, and Brum can't really do anything about it. He's kind of just the unfortunate passenger. There is something going on at the mountain, I feel. Yes, there is. There's a McLaren hitting the wall there. Who was that? That wasn't Vassiliadis. Was that Osduru? I'm seeing the number 11. That was Mouchard. Mouchard hit the wall. And I think Josh Redhead has taken the P2 position because of that. Yes, he has. Oh, incident there for the number 11. Let's have a look at what happened here. So, Mouchard. Oh, it wasn't even... No, sorry, that was much... This is the incident much earlier. Something's happened. Because at this point... Hold up. I mean, that was a different angle, different perspective on the incident, so actually nothing kind of really changed there. Okay, forget my ramblings. Nothing really too severe about that. Brandon Kalanian, though, he's been putting in the effort and has set 7/10 faster lap time than Cottalessa over the last lap, and he's rapidly gaining. He's 15 seconds off Cottalessa now. What has happened to Cottalessa? He's gotten caught up on a back marker, I think, is what's happened to him. He's lost 4 seconds on this lap already. Brandon Kleinen, I think he's just on... So I think Brandon Kleinen might have taken a fresh tyre set. So he's going to be on the same thing as Cottalessa. So there isn't really a difference there when it comes to the pit stop strategies. But yeah, at this point in time, drivers are just hoping to make it across the line. 10 minutes. Again, this is one of the tracks where we've heard it all before from some of the previous drivers. We've heard it from Woodkits in the past. It's one of those tracks where you're just trying to survive. This isn't a track where you're aiming to be, oh yeah, you know, I aim to be this quick and this quick and this. You know, if you're good enough at what you do, if you're good enough at racing, yes, that is what you do. You go, oh yeah, I'll aim for a 2.0, I'll aim for a 2.01, you know, all that. But at the same time, some of it is just, I'm aiming to survive tonight. I'm aiming to just make it to the end of the race. I'm aiming to bring the car home in one big piece. There might be smaller chunks missing, but that's fine as long as we bring most of the car across the line in one piece. That's fine as well. And Cottalessa, well, he hasn't really lost too many bits and bobs off the car, and he's still setting stellar lap times. 2:01.5. That is the fastest lap for the session at the moment, for the race. And the nearest driver is actually Brandon Kleinen with a 2:01.5 as well. About 600ths between their fastest laps. So that gap that was 17 seconds before has dropped to 14 seconds now after Cottalessa's last lap, which was a bit atrocious. I think something happened there, and it might have been the back markers, might have been something to do with that. Chris Mouchard slow there. So Hubert is now coming up on the back of Alessandro Panatti. He's 50 whole seconds behind Christian Graniero. So this is the fight for P5 starting soon. We haven't really seen too much from Panatti. Hubert, we've seen plenty of stuff from Hubert. He's been working his way through the grid, and he's been absolutely stellar at working through the traffic and making overtakes on Vasiliadis in particular. But now he's finally caught up to the back of his fellow pro racers, and he'll be looking to make an overtake for the actual position itself. 1.5 seconds between the two drivers. Closest gap is Christian Graniero and Kurt Peters up in P3 and P4. So a battle for the final podium position is also not too far away, and that gap has actually closed to about 1.5 seconds now. But it's still 1.3 between Hubert and Panatti. We'll see what it looks like out into the straight though, because that is where a lot of time can either be won or lost depending on your exit. And you can see, you can hear how early Hubert got on the throttle there. Christian Graniero within a second of Peters now as they head into turn 2. He's got the slipstream, he's got the pace of the BMW as well. It's 0.8 seconds between these two. Through the mountain section, the Ferrari will have the advantage because it's a little more aero, it's a little more about the agility side of things, but that doesn't stop Graniero from pulling within half a second of the Ferrari. Could this be a move for P3, the final podium position on the cards for the Italian? Could this be another great finish? Could this be the first podium for Peters for the season? Hopefully. Kleinen and Cottalessa is pretty much guaranteed at this point. But of course anything can happen in the last 7.5 minutes of the race. But Graniero is just pushing to make up that gap to the Ferrari, and he's keeping pace relatively well. He is a 10th off in terms of fastest lap, but otherwise he's still pretty good. He's got that gap down. Unfortunately, he has opened up to a second now as they come out of the mountain section, but he's got 2 kilometers to then close that gap to the back of the Ferrari. 0.8 seconds between them now. Let's see how far that is to the car ahead. You can maybe just about feel the slipstream. George Vasiliadis, oh my goodness, George Vasiliadis stationary on track, and he is in the middle. Watch out, keep it to the inside Oh my goodness, tread very carefully. Vasiliadis from the race lead for the Pro class has crashed down at turn 2, and there are yellow flags out there. What's happened to the number 29? We do have a replay indeed. Whether we'll have a look at it before Christian Graniero gets past, though, is the question, because 0.8 seconds between them. And it is a straight, so we'll have a quick look at how this might end for the BMW as he gets on the power fairly aggressively. The Italian looking to make an overtake on a car from his home country. 0.4 seconds between them. This is maybe his opportunity. This is the best opportunity he's got recently. 0.4 seconds, he's closed that gap up. Can he get even closer? No, he's not close enough for a move, but back markers could play a role. We could see the traffic get in the way here, especially into the cutting. He stays wide. Good job there. Heads up driving from Rucroft. Top notch. Now they'll just make their way through the technical section carefully, and we'll probably see them have a scrap for the final position into the cutting. 0.8 seconds between Stephen and Brum, though, for P2 in the AM class. Things are spicing up at the end of the race, but Zero does slow as well. There's a yellow flag for him. Oh my goodness, all sorts of things happening. So let's quickly get that replay for the incident we had earlier, which was Vasiliadis in the number 29. A couple incidents have happened there. So here we are, two Mercedes, redhead ahead. Always sounds so funny saying redhead ahead. Into the braking zone. I'm saying it was miscommunication. Down the inside, brakes, and yeah, as it comes past, just tags redhead. Redhead maybe under braking, maybe moves a little bit, and yeah, just kind of didn't brake early enough, and things happen. But things are happening right now. Christian Graniero 0.2 seconds off the Ferrari into the left-hander of the chase, and he did have a look there. It is incredibly close between these two now as they emerge out of the final chicane of the track, and Joshua Hubert is also not too far off the back of Alessandro Panatti for P5. Again, things are spicing up here. I did not expect this, to be honest. We've seen so many crashes, we've seen so many incidents happen tonight. I was not expecting a final lap or two scrap for some, to be honest, some pretty big positions. P5 and P3 at stake for these guys. Christian Graniero and the BMW. Can he make progress on Kurt Peters down the straight? Can Hubert get past into the braking zone for the chase? He's right up on his rear end now. Through the right-hander kick. Will he stay left? Yes, he does. There he goes. Pulls to the inside. Uses the superior brakes from the Porsche and gets that move done. Beautiful overtake from the number 1 for P5. Stunning stuff. Textbook move. And now we start working on Christian Graniero, who is 51 seconds ahead. I don't think that gap is going to close any time soon. This might be the final position that Joshua Hubert makes for this evening. But again, anything can happen in 3.5 minutes. We could see someone crash out. We could see someone spin. We could see one of the biggest crashes in HSR Motorsport history happen. We don't know. All I know is Graniero is still behind Peters. He's dropped to about a second. Maybe next lap he's going to turn on his A game. Maybe he's taking it a little easier now. And then next lap he's going to turn on the thrusters. He's going to turn on the absolutely massive afterburners on that BMW and full send the final lap. Unless it's been full sending all the way, which is what I usually do. So Nick Brum with a slow lap time, the number 8. Something's happened there, as well as to Manchip in the 999. So the number 8 had an incident. Let's have a look what happened here. So this is Brum into the chase. He's got a McLaren threatening to make a move down the inside. And, oh, a little bit of oversteer. Tries to correct it and spins. Little nudge on the barrier behind. Oh, my goodness. Close there on the rejoin. But everything's still fine. Everyone's still gone out fine. 0.2 seconds between Cristiano Graniero, and it is side by side into turn 2 as this is opportunity. Peter's making him go the long way around for the final podium position. This is all suddenly sprung up upon us, and it's still Graniero still stuck behind that Ferrari, and we might have another lap of this yet to go. Either that or this is the final lap. I'm not sure. I didn't get an announcement saying it was the final lap or it was the penultimate lap. I think though it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. Cotalesa's going to cross that line pretty much as the clock strikes 0 pretty much. So it's I think this might be one more lap to go. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. So where is Cotalosa now? He's coming down. No, he's coming down the main straight. So he will make it, I think. He will actually make it. So we've got one lap to go. One lap to go once that Ferrari crosses the line. Let's actually go on board with him for a little bit as he makes his way across the line. This is that high-speed chicane that all the drivers come through at the end of the 2-kilometre-long Conrad Straight, and then into the final left-hander across the start-finish line. And Tim Miro is back into the pits as well. 3 minutes there. And there we go. There's the official announcement. 1 lap to go. Final lap of the race, ladies and gents. And Graniero still has not managed to make his position on Peters. This is going to be desperation turned up to 11. Or if he can keep a level head, you know, might have to settle for P4. But we won't know until we see Quarry Bend, I think. You can see he is pushing, though. He is pushing that BMW as hard as he can. And he is actually pushing it maybe potentially a little too hard. You can see the rear end stepping out. That is a sure indication that he's pushing that car a little too hard. Run out wide. Still a second between Peters and Graniero. His best opportunity is going to be on the Conrad Straight into the chase if the traffic treats him nicely, which they do. So Manship does pull out of the way nice and tidy over to the left-hand side. Allows the BMW through. But they are coming up on Broom now, so that could be a potential hindrance there. But then a quick little review of your race leaders. I think Nick Broom's just had an instant. Oh my goodness, and there's a pile up down to turn 3. Oh my goodness, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. Final lap incident. And there is chaos down at turn 3, 4 and 5. Griffin's Mount. There are cars all over the place. It's the final lap of the race. And we have cars strewn all over the place. Leakin Stephen now comes across to take P2, sorry, for his class, and meanwhile Cotalosa's just sending it down the final straight, and he's just going to come across the line to take it. Something happened down by turn 3, 4 and 5. We're going to have a look at that later. Absolutely. So that was car number 78 with an incident. Car 25, but we'll cast our minds to that a little bit later as the 163 Cotalesa comes across the line to take his first race win of the season. Cotalesa wins round 3 of the GT3 Season 6 Championship for the pros, and Vasiliadis in the background does the same for the pros, and it's not far behind before Johan Huben is going to come across the line to claim the AM class victory. Out of nowhere, Broom was leading it, and then something happened to him. There was some sort of incident, and he just suddenly got caught up in one of the biggest incidents that we've ever seen at Bathurst at HSR Motorsport. Kalainen claims P2 for the pro class. Kurt Peters, P3. He's just coming across the line now to take his podium position. Stephen and Broom came across as well to take their P2 and P3 positions. And Jan Huben will be the last winner for this evening. We'll wait for him to come across the line before we have a look at that replay. And then I think it will be the end of our race weekend. And wow, what an evening. We've seen Bathurst, Mount Panorama drop many people. And Huben was one of those people initially, but he's come back and he has taken the race win, and it is Huben, the number 99, who wins round 3 for the AM class. So let's have a quick little look at that incident earlier, the car number 78 and 25 and number 8 actually as well. So here we go into left-handers. That's fine. So this is a completely unrelated incident actually. So it's a different incident. So it's the 25 and the 78 who had something. You can see there he did meet kind of the wall there for a little bit. It was the 25 and the 78. No, even then. So redhead and Stevens. Potentially a nudge or a little rub. At this point, oh, it was Stevens into the wall. Contact there between them, and then we just went straight on. I want to find that incident. Something happened. Something massive happened earlier. There it is. That's the tail end of the chaos. Ah, man. We couldn't quite catch that, unfortunately. Oh, my goodness. So the chaos from round 3 of the Season 6 Championship comes to a close now, and we now look forward to round 4, Laguna Seca, which is going to be a 30-minute sprint session. So that concludes it. Join us next week again, same time, 8 PM GMT for round 4 at Laguna Seca, and we'll hopefully see you all there. Good night.